So what I want to actually talk about today is I want to talk about soaking, but I want to show you the impact of it. He is always present. We don't have to be with him soaking for hours and hours and hours to have a profound impact on the environment in which we walk. If we actually walk through our daily life, understanding he is constantly with us and that we can release him wherever we go, we will actually drip like a sponge. But I'm going to give you an example of what soaking does and why we soak. And I love this example. So what I actually have is a bowl of water. We're actually told to be still and know that he is God, but we're also told that there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God. And actually step into the river and allow yourself to experience Ezekiel's river and then see what actually happens. So the reason why we soak, COVID. We're all a bit dry. So life can do this to us. We become a bit hard and a bit crusty. You see, there's not much pliability in that. So as we actually make time to spend time with God, we dip in and we spend a little bit of time with him. And there's a little bit, you can see that the sponge is starting to fill out a little bit. So the sponge is starting to feel a little bit better, a little bit more like a sponge, but it needs us to go back in again. So we dip ourselves in a bit more and we get a little bit wetter. So we can actually go out and start to drip a little bit as we go through our day. And so what we actually do is that we then choose to spend more time with him. And the more and more time we spend with him, the more we drip of his presence without even trying. But then when we choose to actually release on others, we might give them a hug or a word of encouragement, whether we say the word Jesus or not, we're still doing that and it changes them. So you can see though that as you actually go about and you release, you can sometimes start to not be quite as drippy. So you need to spend more time. And what actually happens is that then you come across people who are also struggling with COVID or whatever it is that they're struggling with during their life. And along here you come, and it might be that you feel that you're meant to say to that person, God adores you and he's created you for something better. And they start to take on some of what you've been carrying. And it makes them realize that they're coming into shape. They're starting to become more filled out in what they're actually called to do. And so they're like, can I have some of what you're having? It's like when Harry met Sally, I'll have what she's having. And this has happened. So you come alongside of them and you encourage them some more. And if they're a pre-Christian, they'll often say, what is it that you're carrying? I've had people stop me when I've been walking to say, what are you carrying? And I'm not perfect. So there are times when I do struggle, and that's when I need to do this. So I can then do this again. And it's not just about me doing that for the world. It's also a drippy sponge is a much happier place to be, because that is what we're created to be. That's what we've been created to just be full of him. And then we can actually go about doing what it is that we've been purposed to do. So so it's John 4:13, which says, whoever drinks the water I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life. And so that spring of water, and the Psalms talks about, lift up your heads, O you ancient gates, and let the King of glory enter in. So we are actually a gateway of encounter, but we do become those streams that make glad the city of God. The man brought me back to the entrance to the temple, and I saw water coming out from under the threshold of the temple toward the east, for the temple faced east. The water was coming down from under the south side of the temple, south of the altar. He then brought me out through the north gate and led me around the outside to the outer gate facing east, and the water was trickling from the south side. As a man went eastward with a measuring line in his hand, he measured off 1,000 cubits, and then led me through water that was ankle deep. He measured off another 1,000 cubits and led me through water that was knee deep. He measured off another 1,000 and led me through water that was up to the waist. He measured off another 1,000, but now it was a river that I could not cross because the water had risen and was deep enough to swim in, a river that no one could cross. He asked me, Son of man, do you see this? Then he led me back to the bank of the river. When I arrived there, I saw a great number of trees on either side of the river. He said to me, this water flows toward the eastern region and goes down into the Arabah, where it enters the Dead Sea. When it empties into the sea, the salty water there becomes fresh. Swarms of living creatures will live wherever the river flows. There will be large numbers of fish because this water flows there and makes the salt water fresh. So where the river flows, everything will live. Fishermen will stand along the shore from En-Gedi to En-Galaim. There will be places for spreading nets. The fish will be of many kinds, like the fish of the Mediterranean Sea, but the swamps and the marshes will not become fresh, for they will be left for salt. Fruit trees of all kinds will grow on both banks of the river. Their leaves will not wither, nor will their fruit fail. Every month they will bear fruit, because the water from the sanctuary flows to them. Their fruit will serve for food, and their leaves for healing. What I want you to do is imagine being on the banks of that river and just stepping in. And it might be that you step in and it's only ankle deep. And you might choose to walk down the river and have a look. You can breathe under the water. So if you actually decide to go swimming, see what you can see. Ask God about it. Try floating on your back, look up and have a look at the leaves of the trees. Have a look at what it is that he's doing and see what he would say to you. And if he doesn't, if you just lie back and you just go, you know what, I'm just going to trust that I'm just floating on the river, pull out a lie low and just lie back and lie low and just be with him. And don't worry about anything that I said. Just soak.